The first thing I saw that morning was steam. Not the good kind, the kind that rises from coffee on a cold day. No, this was the angry hiss from a busted valve, the kind that makes your ears ring even after the shift ends. 6 a.m., and I was limping out of the boiler plant, my left leg stiff as a board. 2 years since the accident. 2 years since Carlos didn't make it out. I turned onto Ridge Street, and that's when I saw them. Orange cones, a whole parade of them, lined up across my driveway like soldiers at a checkpoint. Behind them, a wall of snow, 4 feet high, maybe more, piled right where I needed to turn in. Someone had scraped it off the main road and dumped it at my gate. Deliberate, precise. I killed the engine and sat there, hands tight on the wheel. The neighborhood was dead quiet, no lights in any windows, just me and that snow wall and the smell of diesel hanging in the cold air. Then I saw the sign, bright yellow plastic, zip-tied to the tallest cone. Emergency snow removal zone, vehicle tow authorized. If you've ever felt your stomach drop to your boots, you know what I'm talking about. I got out slow. My leg always acts up in the cold, and that morning it was screaming. I walked up to the cones, grabbed the sign, read it twice. No date, no signature, just a threat. Behind the snow wall, I could see my garage door. Inside was the machine I'd built from scratch, a snowblower mounted on an old chassis, reinforced with parts I'd salvaged from the plant. It was ugly as sin, but it cleared my driveway in 10 minutes. Without it, I'd be out here with a shovel for hours. And my leg, forget it. On the steering column of that machine, I'd bolted a valve. Old brass, scratched to hell, with 2 letters engraved on the side. CM Carlos Martinez, my partner. The guy who died because I made the wrong call on a pressure gauge. The valve was all I had left of him. A reminder. A penance. I stood there staring at that snow wall, and I felt something twist in my chest. This wasn't random. This was a message. The Homeowners Association. Let me back up. Ridgeview Commons, where I live, it's one of those neighborhoods where people care more about their lawn than their neighbors. The kind of place where everyone smiles at the block party but reports you the next day for parking your truck wrong. And running it all, Denise Randolph, 50-ish, former teacher, now full-time busybody. She'd turned the Homeowners Association into her personal kingdom. Her husband, Greg, he ran the property management company that handled our snow removal. Convenient, right? Every winter, the association paid his company $45,000 to plow our streets. I'd seen the invoices, public record. What I didn't know yet was how much of that money actually went to snow removal versus straight into Greg's pocket. But that morning, standing in front of those cones, all I knew was this. Someone wanted me gone. I grabbed 2 cones, tossed them into the snow. Then I started digging. My gloves were thin, and the cold bit through within seconds. My breath came out in clouds. Every shovel of snow felt like lifting concrete. Halfway through, I heard footsteps. Jack. I turned. Denise Randolph stood at the edge of my driveway, arms crossed, wearing a puffy coat that made her look like a purple marshmallow. Behind her, her husband Greg, tall, smug, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. "You can't move those cones," Denise said. Her voice was crisp, clipped. Teacher voice. "Watch me," I said, and kept shoveling. "We passed a new bylaw," she continued. "Emergency meeting. 5 board members voted. No unauthorized mechanical devices on association property." I stopped, leaned on the shovel. "My driveway isn't association property." Greg stepped forward. "Actually, the roads are, and anything parked on them falls under our jurisdiction." He tapped the clipboard. "You've got 48 hours to remove that machine, or we remove it for you." I looked at him, really looked at him. Slick jacket, polished boots, 0 snow on them. This guy hadn't lifted a shovel in his life. "I need that machine," I said slowly. "I can't shovel, not with my leg." Denise tilted her head. "That's unfortunate, Jack, but rules are rules." Rules. I wanted to laugh. If you're watching Karenology, you know. It's never just about rules. It's about control. It's about people like Denise and Greg carving out their little empires and crushing anyone who doesn't bow. "Get off my property," I said. Greg smiled. 48 hours. They walked away, boots crunching on the snow. I stood there, gripping that shovel, every muscle in my body coiled tight. Then I went inside, grabbed my phone, and started digging. Not through snow this time, through documents. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a stack of papers spread out like a crime scene. County records, association bylaws, contracts. My wife, Sarah, brought me coffee and sat down across from me. "What are you looking for?" she asked. "Proof," I said, "that they're lying." She touched my hand. "Jack, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe we just move the machine, park it somewhere else." I looked at her. Sweet, patient Sarah. She'd stood by me through the accident, through the surgeries, through the nights I woke up screaming Carlos's name. She deserved peace, but I couldn't give her this. "They're not taking it," I said quietly, because that machine wasn't just metal and bolts. It was the last thing I'd built with my own hands after the accident. It was proof I could still fix things, still be useful. And that valve, CM, it was my way of keeping Carlos alive. If I let them take it, I'd have nothing left. Sarah sighed, kissed my forehead, went to bed. I stayed up till 3 a.m. reading, and that's when I found it. The roads in Ridgeview Commons, the ones Denise and Greg claimed belonged to the association. They didn't. Not technically. They were held in a trust. And that trust? It had been transferred in 2019 to a private company. Ridgeview Property Management. Greg's company. He didn't just manage the snow removal. He owned the roads. And every year, the association paid him $45,000 to plow streets he controlled. I sat back, stared at the ceiling. The pieces were starting to fit, but I didn't have the full picture yet. 2 days later, I got the notice. Hand-delivered, slipped under my door while I was at work. Official letterhead, Homeowners Association logo at the top. In violation notice, unauthorized equipment storage. Fine, $600. Lien authorized if unpaid within 30 days. $1,200, just like that. I crumpled the paper, threw it across the room. Then my phone buzzed. A message in the neighborhood Facebook group. I opened it. A photo. My snowblower parked in my garage, taken from the street. Caption: "Unsafe machinery stored in residential area. Kids play here." 18 likes. 2 comments. "I saw sparks flying from his garage last week. Why doesn't the association do something?" Lies, all of it. But the damage was done. I sat there, staring at my phone, and I felt it. That same cold twist in my chest. The walls were closing in. And somewhere out there, Denise and Greg were smiling. The next morning, I went to the association board meeting. 7 people sitting behind a folding table in the community center, looking down at me like I was on trial. Denise at the center, hands folded, that same tight smile on her face. Greg leaning against the wall behind her, arms crossed. 30 residents in the chairs. Most of them wouldn't look at me. I walked to the front, and every step echoed in that room. My leg was killing me, but I kept my face blank. "Don't show weakness. That's what Carlos used to say." Denise cleared her throat. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for coming. We've received multiple complaints about your vehicle." "It's not a vehicle," I said. "It's a snowblower." "Semantics," she said, flipping through papers. "According to these reports, your device leaked oil onto the street, created a fire hazard, disturbed neighbors at 6 a.m. with excessive noise." I clenched my jaw. "Show me the reports." She slid a folder across the table. I opened it. 3 complaint forms. Anonymous. Every single one. No names, no signatures, just checkboxes and typed accusations. "This is garbage," I said, tossing it back. One of the board members, a guy named Phil, owned a car dealership, leaned forward. "Mr. Morrison, we're trying to keep this neighborhood safe. If you can't comply with basic regulations..." "What regulations?" I cut him off. "You passed this bylaw 3 days ago. Emergency vote. How many residents knew about it? How many got to vote?" Silence. Denise's smile tightened. "The board has authority to act in emergencies." "What emergency?" "Public safety." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Public safety, right. So Greg's company gets paid $45,000 a year to plow our streets, but somehow my snowblower is the danger? Greg pushed off the wall. "Watch yourself, Morrison." "Or what?" I turned to face him. "You'll add another fine, forge another complaint?" The room went dead quiet. You could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead. Denise stood up. "Mr. Morrison, the board has voted. You have 48 hours to remove the device, or we will have it towed. This meeting is over." I looked around the room. 30 people, Not one of them met my eyes, except one. Tony Velas, mechanic. 40-something, built like a bear, grease permanently under his nails. He worked on half the cars in the neighborhood. Good guy, honest. He gave me the smallest nod. I walked out, didn't look back. Outside, the cold hit me like a slap. I sat in my truck, hands shaking. Not from fear, from rage. That's when my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Check the maintenance logs. Ridgeview roads aren't plowed as often as they should be. I stared at the screen. No name, no signature. But I knew who it was. Tony. Smart. If he said it out loud in that room, Denise would have his head. Greg's company handled all the association's vehicle maintenance contracts. If Tony spoke up, he'd lose $12,000 a year. Easy. So he stayed quiet, but he gave me a thread to pull. I drove straight to the county assessor's office. Small building, smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. The clerk at the desk, Maria, her name tag said, looked up when I walked in. Help you? I need records, I said. Snow removal logs for Ridgeview Commons. Public contract, last 3 years. She raised an eyebrow. That's specific. I know what I'm looking for. She disappeared into the back. I stood there, foot tapping, watching the clock. Every minute felt like an hour. 10 minutes later, she came back with a folder, thick, heavy. Here, she said, sliding it across. Then, quieter. Someone else requested these last week, just so you know. I looked at her. Who? She shrugged. Didn't leave a name. I took the folder, sat down at a table by the window, opened it. Pages and pages of logs, dates, times, conditions. Every snowfall over 3 inches triggered the contract. Greg's company was supposed to plow within 24 hours. I started cross-referencing, weather reports, dates, actual plowing times. And there it was. 21 incidents over the last 3 winters. Snow fell, contract triggered, but the roads, they didn't get plowed for 48, sometimes 72 hours. 3-inch snowfall on January 14th, 2023. Roads plowed January 17th. 5-inch snowfall on February 2nd, 2024. Roads plowed February 5th. Over and over, the pattern was undeniable. And the consequences? I dug deeper. Incident reports. 4 accidents over 3 years. Cars sliding on ice. 1 pedestrian injury. The association's insurance company had paid out $67,000 in claims. $67,000 because Greg wasn't doing his job. But he kept getting paid, $45,000 a year, for work he wasn't completing. I sat back, stared at the documents. The anger in my chest turned cold, focused. This wasn't just about my snowblower. This was fraud. I pulled out my phone, called Sarah. Hey, she said, you okay? I found something, I said. Greg's company. They're not plowing on schedule. Haven't been for years. Silence on the other end, then, Jack, what are you going to do? Good question. What would you do? If you found out someone was stealing from your neighbors, putting people at risk, and using their power to crush anyone who got in the way? I'm going to prove it, I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Carlos, the way he used to laugh at stupid jokes, the way he checked every valve twice, even when we were running late, the way he looked at me in those last seconds, blood on his face, asking if it was going to be okay. I told him yes, I lied. The valve on my snowblower, CM, I'd taken it from the plant after the funeral, against regulations. But I didn't care. I needed something, some piece of him. And now Denise and Greg wanted to take that too. I got up, went to the garage, stood there in the dark, staring at the machine. I touched the valve, cold brass under my fingers. I'm not letting them win, I whispered. The next day I went back to the plant, found my supervisor, a guy named Dale. Good man. Fair. I need a favor, I said. Name it. I need to borrow some equipment, pressure sensors, data loggers, just for a week. He frowned. What for? Personal project. He studied me. We'd worked together for 15 years. He knew about Carlos, knew about the leg. Bring it back in one piece, he finally said. I nodded. You got it. That night, I installed the sensors, 4 of them, spread across different sections of Ridgeview's roads, hidden, simple. Each one recorded snow depth every 6 hours, automatically time-stamped, and linked to cheap webcams I'd rigged from old electronics. If Greg's company didn't plow on schedule, I'd have proof. Real time, undeniable. I finished just after midnight. My leg was screaming, my hands were numb, but I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. I went inside. Sarah was asleep on the couch, TV still on. I covered her with a blanket, kissed her forehead. Then I sat down and waited. 3 days later, the snow came. Big storm. 6 inches overnight. Weather Service issued advisories. Roads were a mess. I checked my sensors. 6 a.m., snow depth averaging 5.8 inches across Ridgeview. Greg's contract said, plow within 24 hours. I waited. 24 hours passed. No plow. 36 hours. Still nothing. I checked the sensors. Snow depth. Still 5.8 inches. Compacted now. Icy underneath. 48 hours. Finally, I heard the plow. Watched it roll through from my window. Greg's company logo on the side. I downloaded the data, time-stamped photos, depth readings, everything. Then I made a call. County Insurance Claims Division. This is Linda. Linda Zhao, the underwriter for Ridgeview's liability policy. I'd found her name buried in the association documents. Ms. Zhao, I said, my name is Jack Morrison. I'm a resident of Ridgeview Commons, and I have information about a contractor who's been violating their snow removal obligations. Pause. I'm listening. The contractor is supposed to plow within 24 hours of any snowfall over 3 inches. They've missed that deadline 21 times in 3 years. And your company has paid out $67,000 in accident claims because of it. Longer pause. How do you know this? I have documentation, logs, sensor data, photos, all time-stamped. Mr. Morrison, she said slowly, if what you're saying is accurate, we have a serious problem, but I need to verify. Can you send me everything you have? Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Morrison, if this is a fraud claim, I need physical evidence, not just documents. Documents can be altered. I understand, I said. I'll get you what you need. I hung up, sat there. My heart was pounding. This was it, the opening. But I knew Denise and Greg wouldn't go down easy. 2 days later, I found out just how dirty they were willing to play. I came home from work at 6 a.m., pulled into my driveway, and stopped. My snowblower tipped over, lying on its side in the street. Hydraulic fluid everywhere, dark puddles spreading across the pavement. Someone had opened the valve, the one marked CM. I got out slow, walked over, knelt down. The valve was cracked, broken, oil still dripping from the threads. And on the ground next to it, trampled into the snow, a yellow notice. Environmental hazard, cleanup required, cost $3,200. I picked it up. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely read it. Behind me, I heard an engine, turned around. Police cruiser, lights off but rolling slow. The officer got out. Young guy, didn't recognize him. You Jack Morrison? Yeah. Got a complaint about an oil spill, environmental hazard. I laughed, bitter. You're looking at it. He walked over, looked at the snowblower, the puddle. You responsible for this? Someone tipped my machine over, I said. Broke the valve. That's why it's leaking. You got proof? Do you? He stared at me, then pulled out a notepad. I'm going to need you to clean this up, and we'll be filing a report. A report for what? I'm the victim here. Sir, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, I'd heard that before. The officer left. I stood there, staring at my machine, at the broken valve, at the oil spreading across the street. CM. Carlos. And something inside me snapped. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that valve, cracked, leaking. Carlos's initials stained with oil. Sarah found me in the garage at 3 a.m., sitting on the floor next to the snowblower. She didn't say anything, just sat down beside me, put her hand on my knee. They broke it, I said quietly. I know. In that valve. It was all I had left of him. She squeezed my knee. No, it wasn't. You carry Carlos with you every day, in here. She touched my chest. Not in a piece of metal. I wanted to believe her, but right then, all I felt was empty. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at the machine, at the puddle of oil, at the mess they'd made. I'm going to make them pay, I said. The next morning I called in sick, first time in 2 years. Then I got to work. I took samples of the hydraulic fluid, Photographed everything, the tipped machine, the broken valve, the oil pattern on the pavement. Then I checked my security footage. We didn't have cameras, but the neighbor across the street, Mrs. Chen, 70 years old, lived alone. She had one pointed at her driveway, and it caught part of my street. I walked over, knocked. She opened the door, looked me up and down. "Jack, you look terrible." "I feel terrible. Mrs. Chen, I need a favor. Your security camera, did it catch anything last night, around 2 a.m.? She frowned. "Why?" "Someone vandalized my property, tipped over my snowblower. I need to see who did it." She studied me, then nodded. "Come in." We sat in her living room. She pulled up the footage on her TV. Grainy, black and white, but clear enough. 2:14 a.m. A truck rolled up, dark, no headlights, stopped in front of my house. Two figures got out, both wearing hoodies, gloves. They walked to my snowblower. One of them, taller, bulkier, grabbed it. The other opened something near the base, the valve. It took them 40 seconds. Then they were gone. "Can you see the license plate?" I asked. Mrs. Chen rewound, zoomed in. The plate was visible for maybe 3 frames. I pulled out my phone, took a picture of the screen. "Thank you," I said. "Jack," she said as I stood up, "be careful. People like that. They don't stop." "I know," I said. I ran the plate through a buddy of mine who worked at the DMV. Took him 20 minutes. The truck was registered to Ridgeview Property Management, Greg's company. I sat in my truck staring at my phone. The proof was right there. Greg or someone working for him had vandalized my property, destroyed evidence, framed me for an environmental violation. That's felony territory. I should have gone to the police, should have filed a report, played it by the book. But I knew how this worked, small-town politics. The association had connections. Denise probably played bridge with half the county commissioners. And Greg. He spread money around like fertilizer. If I went to the cops, it'd get buried, or worse, twisted around until I was the bad guy. No, I needed something bigger, something they couldn't ignore. I called Linda Zhao, the insurance underwriter. "Ms. Zhao, Jack Morrison. We spoke a few days ago." "Mr. Morrison, did you send me that documentation?" "I'm about to, but I need to ask you something first. If a contractor violated the terms of their agreement, repeatedly, provably, what happens to the insurance policy?" Pause. "We'd review the contract. If the violations contributed to claims we paid out, we could void future coverage or require the association to terminate the contractor. And if they don't terminate, then we don't renew. And without liability insurance, the association can't legally operate." I felt something click in my chest. So if I can prove Greg's company violated the snow removal contract, and that those violations caused accidents you paid for, you'd force the association to fire him? That's correct. But again, Mr. Morrison, I need ironclad proof, not just documents, physical evidence, testimony, data. "I'll get it to you," I said. "All of it." I hung up, stared out the windshield. This was the path. Not the police, not a lawsuit. Insurance. Cut off their coverage and the whole system collapsed. But I needed more than sensor data. I needed something undeniable. That afternoon, I went back to the community center, looked for Tony Valise, found him in the parking lot, working on someone's transmission. "Tony," I said. He looked up, wiped his hands on a rag. "Jack, hell of a week you're having." "You could say that." He glanced around, made sure no one was listening. "What do you need?" "The board meeting. You sent me that text about the maintenance logs." He didn't confirm it, didn't deny it, just kept wiping his hands. "I need to know," I said. "Why'd you help me?" He sighed, set down the rag. "Because Greg's a crook. Everyone knows it, but no one says anything because he's got leverage. He controls half the contracts in this neighborhood. If you cross him, you lose money. Simple as that. So why risk it?" "Because someone has to." He looked me in the eye. "And because what happened to you? With the snowblower? That could have been anyone. Today it's your machine. Tomorrow it's someone's roof repair, or their septic system. Greg doesn't stop. He just finds new ways to squeeze." I nodded slowly. "Can you testify to the insurance company about the snow removal delays?" Tony hesitated. "If I do, I lose the maintenance contract, $12,000 a year." "I know." He looked away, jaw tight, thinking. "Let me talk to my wife," he finally said. I left him there, didn't push. I knew what I was asking. That night, I got another message, Facebook this time, from someone in the neighborhood group. "Jack Morrison pollutes our streets. Homeowners Association must act now." Posted by someone named Kelly Marsh. I didn't know her, didn't recognize the profile picture. But the post had 63 likes, and the comments were brutal. "Why isn't he arrested yet? I have kids. This is unacceptable. Morrison needs to go." I scrolled through Kelly's profile, created 6 months ago, 12 friends, all of them connected to Denise or Greg. Fake account, bot, whatever you want to call it. They were flooding the narrative, turning the neighborhood against me. And it was working. The next day I got a knock on my door, opened it to find Phil, the car dealership guy from the board, standing there with 2 other residents I barely knew. "Jack," Phil said, "we need to talk." "About what?" "The oil spill, the complaints. This is getting out of hand." "I didn't cause the spill," I said. "Someone vandalized my property." "You got proof?" I almost told him about the footage, about Greg's truck, but something stopped me. The way Phil was standing, arms crossed, face blank. This wasn't a friendly visit. "I'm working on it," I said. "Well, work faster," Phil said, "because the board's talking about putting a lien on your house. $6,400, cleanup costs, fines, administrative fees." My stomach dropped. $6,400? Plus the original $1,200, so $7,600 total. If you don't pay in 30 days, we can force a sale. I stared at him. "You're going to take my house?" "That's how liens work, Jack. You should have thought about that before you caused a hazmat situation." "I didn't cause anything." Phil shrugged. "Prove it." They left. I closed the door, stood there, breathing hard. $7,600, 30 days, or they'd take my house. Sarah came out of the kitchen. She'd heard everything. "Jack," she said quietly, "maybe we should just pay it. Move on." "With what money?" I said. "We're barely covering the mortgage as it is." "We could take a loan, or—" "No," I turned to her. "Sarah, they're not going to stop. Even if we pay this, there'll be something else. Another fine, another violation. They want me gone, and they'll keep squeezing until I break." She looked at me, eyes shining. "Then what do we do?" I thought about Carlos, about the valve, about every time I'd walked away from a fight because it was easier. "We fight," I said. The next morning, I got a call from Tony. "I talked to my wife," he said. "She's pissed, but she agrees. I'll testify, for the insurance company, whatever you need." I exhaled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly." He was right. 2 days later, I found out just how ugly. I was at work when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Morrison?" "Yeah?" "This is Jennifer Park, Ridgeview Elementary. Your daughter didn't show up to school today." My blood went cold. "What?" "She was marked absent. We tried calling your wife, but—" I hung up, called Sarah, no answer, called again, nothing. I ran out of the plant, drove home doing 70, pulled into my driveway, tires screaming. Sarah's car was there, front door open. I ran inside. "Sarah!" She was in the kitchen, sitting at the table, staring at her phone, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, what happened? Where's Emma?" She looked up. "She's fine. She's at school. They made a mistake." I stopped. "What?" "Someone called the school," she said, voice shaking. "Pretended to be me, said Emma was sick. They marked her absent and called us to confirm. But it wasn't me, Jack. Someone used my name." I felt my hands curl into fists. "Who?" "I don't know, but look." She turned her phone toward me. A message from another fake Facebook account. Maybe Jack should worry less about snow removal and more about his family's safety. I stared at the screen, the words blurred. They'd gone after my daughter. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just about money or control or pride. This was war. I called the school, demanded to know who'd called in that morning. They couldn't tell me. Privacy policy. But the principal, a woman named Mrs. Davidson, she heard the rage in my voice. "Mr. Morrison," she said carefully, "if you believe someone impersonated your wife to access information about your daughter, that's a police matter." "I know what it is," I said. I hung up, looked at Sarah. She was still crying, arms wrapped around herself. Pack a bag, I said. What? You and Emma, go to your sister's. Stay there until this is over. Jack, I'm not leaving you alone to... Sarah. I knelt in front of her, took her hands. They threatened our daughter. I can't focus if I'm worrying about you two. Please, just for a few days. She searched my face, then nodded. 2 hours later, they were gone. I stood in the driveway, watching Sarah's taillights disappear down the street. The house felt empty, cold. Good, let it be cold. I went back inside, sat down at the kitchen table, pulled out everything I had, sensor data, photos, Mrs. Chen's security footage, the maintenance logs, insurance claims, all of it. And I made a plan. If they wanted war, I'd give them one, but I wasn't going to fight on their terms. I was going to hit them where it hurt most. Their money? The next morning, I drove to the county courthouse, filed a request for a public hearing. Under state law, any resident could demand a review of homeowners association contracts if they suspected financial impropriety. It took 48 hours to process. During that time, I didn't sleep, barely ate, just worked, organized data, built timelines, cross-referenced every document. And I made calls. Linda Zhao, the insurance underwriter, she agreed to attend the hearing, to present her findings. Tony Vallis, he agreed to testify about the maintenance delays, the safety violations. Mrs. Chen, she agreed to provide her security footage, publicly. And Maria, the clerk from the county office, she agreed to bring the original contracts, the real numbers. One by one, I built my case. But there was one more thing I needed. Physical proof, live, undeniable. I looked at my sensor data. The next storm was coming. Weather Service said 8 inches, due to hit in 36 hours. Perfect. I called Linda Zhao back. Ms. Zhao, there's going to be a snowstorm, 8 inches. When it's done, I want you to come to Ridgeview, personally, bring a camera, document the snow depth, and watch how long it takes Greg's company to plow. Mr. Morrison, I'm an underwriter, not an investigator. You said you needed physical evidence, real time, undeniable. This is it. Pause, then, fine, I'll be there. The storm hit on a Thursday night. I watched it from my window, snow coming down thick and heavy. By midnight, there was 6 inches on the ground. By morning, over 8. I checked my sensors. Depth readings across Ridgeview, 8.2 inches average. Greg's contract said, plow within 24 hours. I set a timer, and I waited. 6 a.m., no plow. Noon, no plow. 6 p.m., still nothing. I documented everything, time-stamped photos, depth readings. The roads were a mess. Cars couldn't get out. People were stuck. And on the neighborhood Facebook group, the complaints started rolling in. Where's the plow? I can't get to work. This is ridiculous. But Denise stayed silent. 24 hours passed, the deadline, still no plow. I called Linda Zhao. You should come now. She arrived an hour later, professional, serious, brought a camera and a measuring stick. I met her at the entrance to Ridgeview. Show me, she said. We walked the neighborhood. She measured snow depth at 10 different points, photographed the untouched roads, the stuck cars, the angry residents clearing their driveways by hand. This is a clear violation, she said quietly. They're over the 24-hour window by 6 hours now. It gets better, I said. Watch. Right on cue, at the 30-hour mark, Greg's plow truck finally rolled in, slow, taking its time. Linda photographed it, time-stamped everything. I've seen enough, she said. Mr. Morrison, I'll be recommending immediate contract review, and I'll be attending your public hearing. Thank you, I said. She left. I stood there in the snow, watching the plow finally clear the streets. Too little, too late. The hearing was scheduled for Monday, 10 a.m., school gymnasium, neutral territory, open to all residents. I spent the weekend preparing, printed handouts, data sheets, timelines, made copies for everyone. Sarah called me Sunday night. How are you holding up? She asked. I'm okay. Jack, be careful. People like Denise and Greg, when they're cornered. I know, I said. They bite. I love you. Love you too. Monday morning, I got to the gym early, set up a projector, tested the screen, laid out my documents on a table at the front. People started filing in, slowly at first, then more. By the time it started, there were 95 people in those bleachers. I saw Tony, Mrs. Chen, Maria, Linda Zhao in the back, arms crossed, watching. And front row, center, Denise and Greg, both dressed like they were going to a funeral, faces tight, eyes hard. The county mediator, a guy named Roberts, called the meeting to order. This is a public hearing regarding Ridgeview Commons Homeowners Association contracts. Mr. Morrison has filed a complaint. Mr. Morrison, you have the floor. I stood up, walked to the front. My leg was screaming, but I ignored it. 95 people, all staring at me. Have you ever had to stand alone in front of a crowd and call out the people in power? It's terrifying. Your mouth goes dry, your hands shake. Every instinct says, run. But I thought about Carlos, about that valve, about my daughter's face when Sarah told her why they had to leave. And I started talking. 3 years ago, I said, the Homeowners Association hired Ridgeview Property Management to handle snow removal. The contract was $45,000 a year. In exchange, they were supposed to plow our roads within 24 hours of any snowfall over 3 inches. I clicked the projector. The first slide appeared, a timeline. This is a record of every snowfall over the last 3 years. 21 times Greg's company missed the deadline, sometimes by a day, sometimes by 3 days. Murmurs in the crowd. As a result, I continued, there were 4 accidents, cars sliding on ice, 1 pedestrian injury. The association's insurance company paid out $67,000 in claims. Click, next slide. Insurance documents. But here's the thing. Greg's company isn't just the contractor. Greg owns the roads. They were transferred to his company in 2019. So he's been paying himself $45,000 a year, out of our dues. The murmurs got louder. Denise stood up. This is slander. It's public record, I said, held up a folder. County documents, available to anyone. Mr. Morrison, Roberts said, do you have evidence that the contractor violated the terms? I do. I clicked again. Sensor data appeared. Last week, we had a snowstorm, 8.2 inches. This is live data from sensors I installed across Ridgeview, time-stamped, photographed. Click. The time-lapse appeared. Snow falling. Hours ticking by. No plow. 24 hours passed. Then 30, then 36. Greg's company didn't show up for 30 hours. 6 hours past the deadline. The room went dead silent. And this woman, I pointed to Linda Zhao, is the underwriter for our insurance policy. Ms. Zhao, would you like to add anything? Linda stood. Based on Mr. Morrison's evidence, my company will not renew Ridgeview's liability coverage unless the current snow removal contractor is terminated. The violations are clear. The financial exposure is unacceptable. The crowd erupted, people shouting, some at me, some at Denise and Greg. Roberts banged his gavel. Order! Greg stood up, face red. This is garbage. Morrison's been trying to sabotage us since day one. He's the one who violated association rules. He's the one who created a hazmat spill. With your truck, I said. Greg froze. I clicked the projector again. Mrs. Chen's security footage. Grainy, but clear enough. 2 figures, Greg's truck. License plate visible. 2 a.m., Thursday night, your truck, your employees. They tipped my snowblower, broke the valve, created the spill, and then you fined me for it. The room exploded. 95 people on their feet, shouting, angry. Tony Velli stood up. I've seen it too. The delays, the missed deadlines. Greg threatened to cut my contract if I said anything, but I'm done being quiet. More people stood, one by one. We've been overpaying for years. My car was totaled because the roads weren't plowed. This is theft. Denise tried to speak, tried to regain control, but it was over. The dam had broken. Roberts banged his gavel again. Enough. Based on this evidence, I'm recommending an immediate audit of Ridgeview Property Management's contract and a vote. All residents present. Do you wish to terminate the contract with Ridgeview Property Management? Hands shot up. 78 out of 95. Motion carries, Roberts said. Greg stood there, mouth open, speechless. Denise grabbed his arm, pulled him toward the exit. They left. No words, just gone. The crowd slowly dispersed. People came up to me, shook my hand, thanked me. Tony clapped me on the shoulder. You did it. We did it, I said. Mrs. Chen squeezed my arm. I'm proud of you, Jack. I packed up my projector, my documents, walked out into the cold. The snow was melting, sun breaking through the clouds. I got in my truck, sat there, hands on the wheel, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But there was one more thing I had to do. Sarah and Emma came home 3 days later. I was in the garage when I heard the car pull up, heard Emma's voice, high and excited, asking if everything was okay now. Sarah found me sitting on the floor, same spot as before, same machine. But the valve was gone, the broken one. I'd removed it that morning. Jack, she said softly. I looked up. It's over. The contract's terminated. Greg's under investigation for fraud. The county's auditing 3 years of billing records. She sat down next to me. That's good. Denise resigned. They're voting for a new board next month. Tony's running. He'll probably win. That's really good. I nodded, stared at the empty space where the valve used to be. I couldn't fix it, I said quietly. The valve. It was cracked too deep. I tried. But some things, once they break, they don't go back together the same. Sarah took my hand. No, they don't. We sat there in silence. The garage smelled like oil and metal and cold air. Outside, I could hear kids playing, normal sounds, life moving forward. I got a call this morning, I said, from a kid, engineering student. He's looking for a used snowblower, needs it for a project. I told him I'd sell him mine, $1,800. Jack, you don't have to... I do, I said. Every time I look at it, I see that valve. I see Carlos, and I can't, not anymore. She squeezed my hand, didn't argue. The kid came by that afternoon, 22 years old, bright eyes, reminded me of Carlos when he first started at the plant, full of ideas, full of hope. He walked around the machine, ran his hands over the frame. This is beautiful work, he said. You built this yourself? Yeah. The welds are perfect, and the mounting system. Man, I wish I could do work like this. Something twisted in my chest. You can, I said. Just takes practice and patience. He grinned, pulled out cash, 1,800 in 20s. Thank you, sir. I'm going to take good care of it. I know you will. He loaded it onto his trailer, strapped it down, waved as he drove off. I stood in the driveway, watching him disappear. Sarah came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. I think so. That night, I went into the backyard, dug a hole near the old oak tree, not deep, just enough. I'd wrapped the broken valve in cloth, carefully, like it was something precious. Because it was. I knelt down, placed it in the hole, covered it with dirt. I'm sorry, Carlos, I whispered. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I carried you like a weight instead of a memory. But I'm done now. I'm letting you rest. The wind moved through the branches, cold, clean. Yeah, I stood up, brushed the dirt off my hands. Inside, Sarah and Emma were making dinner. I could hear them laughing. Normal sounds. Good sounds. I walked inside. Emma ran up to me, hugged my legs. Daddy, can we have movie night? I picked her up. She was getting too big for it, but I didn't care. Yeah, sweetheart. We can have movie night. We did. The three of us on the couch, some animated thing Emma picked. I didn't pay attention to the plot. Just watch my daughter laugh. Watch my wife relax for the first time in weeks. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The next week, the association held an emergency meeting. New elections. Tony won the infrastructure position. A woman named Rachel Singh won president. She was a civil engineer. No nonsense, fair. First thing they did was open the books, hire an independent auditor. Second thing, they refunded the fines. All of them. $1,200 back to me. Plus they dropped the environmental cleanup charge. Third thing, they voted to change the bylaws. No more emergency votes, no more closed-door decisions. Everything transparent, everything public. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. I ran into Phil one day, the car dealership guy. He avoided eye contact at first, then stopped. Morrison, he said. Phil. I didn't know about Greg, about the whole thing. You should have asked more questions. He nodded. Yeah, I should have. He paused. For what it's worth. You did the right thing. Thanks, I said. He walked away. I watched him go. Some people apologized, some didn't. Denise and Greg left Ridgeview entirely, moved 2 towns over. Their house sold within a month. The new family seemed nice, kept to themselves. Tony and I became close, real friends, not just neighbors. He'd come over on Sundays. We'd work on projects in the garage, drink beer, talk about nothing. One Sunday, he asked about the valve. "The one you had on the snowblower," he said. "CM, what happened to it?" "I buried it," I said, "out back." He nodded. Didn't ask why, just said, "That's good, man. That's healthy." "Yeah." We sat in silence for a while. Then he raised his beer. "To Carlos." "To Carlos," I said. We drank. Winter came again, the first real snow, 6 inches overnight. I woke up, looked out the window, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight. I didn't have my snowblower anymore, didn't need it. Tony had organized a neighborhood rotation, 5 guys with plows. They cleared everyone's driveways, free, no contracts, no fees, just neighbors helping neighbors. When they got to my house, I was outside with a shovel. My leg hurt, but it was manageable. One of the guys, Marcus, lived 3 houses down, pulled up in his truck. "Jack, you don't have to do that. We got you." "I know," I said, "but I want to." He grinned. "All right, stubborn old man." "Watch who you're calling old," I said. We cleared the driveway together. Took 20 minutes. When we were done, Marcus clapped me on the back. "Good work." "You too." He drove off to the next house. I stood there, shovel in hand, breathing hard. The cold air burned my lungs. My leg throbbed. But I was smiling. That night, Sarah and I sat on the porch, hot chocolate in hand, watching the snow fall. "You did it," she said quietly. "We did it," I corrected. "No, Jack. This was you. You stood up when no one else would. You fought for what was right. I almost lost us in the process." She leaned against me. "But you didn't, and that's what matters." I wrapped my arm around her. "I miss him, you know, Carlos, every day." "I know. But I'm not angry anymore, not at myself, not at what happened. It's just, it is what it is." She kissed my cheek. "That's growth, baby." We sat there until the chocolate went cold, until Emma called us inside because it was too freezing. Life kept moving, the way it does. I went back to work, same shifts, same boilers, same routine. But something was different, lighter. Dale, my supervisor, noticed. "Morrison, you seem better." "I am," I said. "Good. World needs more guys like you. Guys who don't just take it, guys who push back." "Thanks, Dale." He clapped my shoulder, walked away. I stood there in the boiler room, heat washing over me, steam hissing from the pipes, the smell of hot metal and oil. And I thought about Carlos, not with guilt, not with pain, just with gratitude. He taught me to check every valve twice, to never take shortcuts, to stand up for what's right even when it's hard. I carried those lessons, not in a piece of brass, but in how I lived. That's the real memorial. Months passed. Spring came, then summer. The neighborhood thrived under the new board. People felt heard, felt valued. I ran into Mrs. Chen at the grocery store one day. She smiled when she saw me. "Jack, how's the leg?" "Still there, still complaining." She laughed. "You're a fighter, Jack. Don't ever forget that." "I won't." She patted my arm, moved on. I stood there in the cereal aisle, cart half full, and I realized something. I wasn't fighting anymore. I'd won, not just against Denise and Greg, but against the weight I'd been carrying, the guilt, the anger, the shame. I'd let it go. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt free. That night, I went out to the backyard, stood by the oak tree, the spot where I'd buried the valve. "I'm okay, Carlos," I said quietly. "I'm finally okay." The wind rustled the leaves, warm, gentle. And I swear, for just a second, I felt him there, not in the valve, not in the machine, but in the breeze, in the moment, in the peace. "Thank you," I whispered. Then I went inside, back to my family, back to my life. The snowblower was gone. The valve was buried. The fight was over. But I was still here, and that was enough. Some battles you win with strategy, some with strength, some with stubbornness. But the hardest battles, the ones against yourself, those you win by letting go. I learned that the hard way. in a neighborhood full of snow and lies and broken valves. But I learned it. And if you're out there fighting your own fight, carrying your own weight, listen. You don't have to carry it forever. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is put it down. Walk away. And let yourself be free. That's my story. That's what happened in Ridgeview Commons, the year I fought the Homeowners Association, lost a piece of my past, and found a piece of my future. Was it worth it? Yeah, every second. Because I didn't just save my house, I saved myself. And that's something no bylaw, no fine, no broken valve can ever take away.